I think Americans are very siloed. They think that the world surrounds them. Most of them don't even leave their state.
So they're a bit ignorant.
They're totally ignorant.
And I think the Canadian society is much more sophisticated and open-minded, and it's a society that's not so violent.
I imagine.
We don't carry guns and go shoot people. We talk with them.
You don't want to become the 51st state of America.
Absolutely not.
I don't think that we feel, I think that we know that we are better than Americans.
What do you think the biggest differences are between America and Canada?
Well, we have a lot of freedom up here. We have a lot of free health care, which is really nice. And I don't know, just
With long
I don't know,
waits.
it seems safer, less
It
crime,
is.
just a better place to live.
I think Americans are very
All
siloed.
right, let's stop it right there. So yeah, I mean, Americans don't want to acknowledge this, but America has become one of the most dangerous countries on the planet to live. Like the crime rate here is actually bigger, and the crime rate is actually growing in America, while other countries like in Latin America, the crime is actually going down. Like El Salvador, the crime actually went down. They don't have as much crime as they used to. So they're actually improving. America's crime level is going up. What's going on, guys? It's your boy Andy Matrix. I'm back with another video. Today we're going to see what are other countries' opinions about America. Like the perspective and opinion about Americans is changing. Now, I think for the most part, most countries around the world always thought that Americans were a bunch of arrogant, crazy people, but they had respect for America. Now they think that we're arrogant, but do not respect us. So let's go ahead and take a look. All right, here we
The
go.
world is done with America, and most Americans are too. Think about that for a second. For decades, this country has sold itself as the greatest nation on earth, the land of freedom, the land of opportunity, the model that the rest of the world should follow,
Right.
that the rest of the world should look up to. That story worked for a while. It was powerful enough to cover up the cracks. But the cracks are just too big now, and people aren't buying it anymore. Not the world outside of America, or the people who live inside of America. Nobody believes the story that America is telling anymore. Nobody is buying it. Let's start with how it looks on the outside. Other nations pay attention to what America does, not just what it says. And what they see is contradiction. America talks about democracy, but history has shown that it has interfered with elections and overthrown governments all over the globe. America
That is very, very true. That is very true. So it's a lot of what the liberals do here in America, where is democracy. It's like liberals, for example, they talk about freedom, but it's freedom for themselves. When it comes to other people, screw you. That's how liberals think. Yeah, it's really focused on themselves. They don't care about the public. America doesn't really care about democracy. Like a lot of politicians, they still interfere with other countries' politicians, whoever is in office. Oh man, I tell you. All right, let's see this one.
Americans always say to me, if USA is so bad, then why is everybody trying to get into the US? What Americans do not understand is that the only people trying to get into the US are impoverished and displaced people. You will not see a middle-class Chinese or a middle-class Mexican or a middle-class Brazilian trying to get into the US. There's no need. The US only has 4% of the world's population. That means that 96% of people on Earth do not live in the US, do not want to live in the US, and have no need to live in the US. More Mexicans are coming back to Mexico than going to the US, according to the Pew Research Center.
Yeah.
I mean, just look at all the Americans that are actively trying to leave the US. Like they say, the American dream is to leave the US.
Now.
A lot of countries like Venezuela and Cuba are indirectly poor because of the US, all the sanctions and all the embargoes. And then people from the US complain that all the Venezuelans and Cubans are coming into the US. But to be fair, the US does give out a lot of handouts. And to be fair, I personally think that the US cares more about other people from other countries than its own citizens, but that's a conversation for another day. But yes, dear Americans, not everybody is trying to get into the US. Most of the world is okay without the US. There's an entire existence outside the US, guys. But there you have it.
That's what a lot of Americans don't understand. is that the world doesn't need us. I say, like, I'm going to say, like, in the 2010s. In the 2010s, a lot of countries that were poor are no longer poor. In the 2010s, a lot of countries got themselves out of poverty, deep, most of their population in poverty. So they don't need America. China was poor in the 1950s, and then throughout, like, the 80s, the 90s, and the early 2000s, they became super duper. Their engineering is absolutely fantastic, and now they don't even need American products anymore. They make their own. And a lot of people are not coming to America, they're actually leaving, right? So America is no longer this country where people are rushing to go. America is this country where people are rushing to get out of. A lot of Americans don't want to live in America. Everybody's escaping the cost of living. Forget the cost of living. People are escaping the crime, the politics, the lifestyle, the policies. The crazy liberals, the crazy leftists. The marriage and dating in America is horrible. The job market now, it's pretty much just destroyed in America. So, yeah, he's absolutely right.
Wealth inequality in this country is now so bad, it's essentially economically equivalent to being alive during the Marie Antoinette, Louis XVI, let them eat cake era. I'm Vivian, your HBFF, and your favorite Wall Street girly, and I teach you all the personal finance and economics you never got in school, so follow to get smarter. In the US, wealth inequality is very real. The top 1% of households have nearly a third of all wealth, while the bottom 50% have about 2.5%. 10% of people hold roughly 90% of the stock market, and the top 10% of earners account for nearly half of all spending. We know it's bad, but how bad? Well, economists use something called the Gini coefficient. Think of it as a report card for economic equality represented as a number between 0 and 1. 0 is maximum equality, where everybody has the same, and 1 is maximum inequality, where one person has everything and everybody else has nothing. And the best explanation that I've seen about where we're currently at came from economist Pietro Valetto. He pulled the numbers and found that right before the French Revolution, the Gini coefficient in France was roughly 0.8 to 0.85. And now, today in modern America, 0.83. Yikes. That's why you're stressed out at the grocery store while the headlines say the economy is great. If we want to make meaningful change, it's going to take a coordinated effort. Legislators, listen up. The U.S. needs to focus on 3 things. 1, progressive taxation that focuses on wealth, not income. 2, educational equity, because right now only certain communities can access high-paying careers. And 3, strong social safety nets that act as stabilizers during economic shocks. This will enhance economic mobility, thus helping to regrow some of that shrinking middle class.
A lot of this is not going to happen for the simple fact that our politicians and our leaders don't care about the people. It's like the other guy said, the guy before this one, he said that America cares more about people outside of America than people inside of America. Very, very, very true.
People see the U.S. as a third world country, and many other U.S. citizens are also starting to see the U.S. as a third world country.
Because it is.
The TikTok ban was never about national security or data or any of that. It's about blocking off the entire U.S. from the rest of the world so that the U.S. can't see what the rest of the world is like. And this has many US citizens on the new Red Note app going absolutely crazy. And many of the Chinese people that are on the Red Note app are now commenting on American posts and feeling sorry for them. Let me say that again. There is Chinese citizens that genuinely feel bad for US citizens. Like they are actually worried and just can't believe how most of the US is living.
Yeah.
They're showing grocery hauls and how they're living over in China, and then US citizens are doing the same, and they're actually feeling bad for the US.
For $10 a month, you can feed an American, a poor American. No, but seriously, like, I'll give you an example. A lot of Americans are actually moving to Vietnam. Vietnam, who was a poor country. Thailand, that was a poor country. Okay? I didn't know how cool and developed Vietnam was until I went to YouTube. I didn't know how cool and developed Jakarta or Indonesia was until I went to YouTube. A lot of these countries that the United States was at war with is actually very developed. Costa Rica, Mexico, Colombia, very well developed. And a lot of people, they don't want to come to America anymore. They don't want to come to America. So, yeah. The dream is dying. The secret is out.
Such what dishes. A friend asked me, Eric, what do one night in Shanghai over a table full of spicy Szechuan dishes? A friend asked me, Eric, what do Americans really think of China? I laughed and said, good question, but here's a better one. What do Chinese people think of America? Everyone just paused. Then someone said quietly, we admire it, but we don't want to be it. That line sums up China's view of the West today. Admiration mixed with distance. For decades, the West meant success, freedom, and modern life. Older Chinese grew up believing anything foreign was better, but that era is over. Today's generation still uses iPhones, watches, Hollywood movies, but they want to live their own version of modernity. They respect Western innovation, but reject the idea that the West defines what's right. To understand this mindset, you have to look back. For a century, China was invaded, divided, and humiliated by Western powers. That memory still runs deep. So when Western media criticizes China, many Chinese don't just hear news, they hear echoes of history. That's why China's attitude toward the West is emotional, not just political. Then there's the generational shift. Their grandparents dreamed of going to America. Their parents worked with Americans. But Gen Z, they want America to notice them. They don't dream of leaving China. They dream of making China the place everyone wants to come to. At the core, it's about values. The West celebrates individual freedom. China values collective stability.
Yeah, so that's the difference right there. The West values individual freedom, right? And a lot of Asian countries, they value stability. To them, being stable is being free. Having economic stability, having a stable life, a stable country. Stability for Asians is freedom. For the West, doing whatever the heck you want is freedom. You see the mentality? They want stability. We want to do whatever we want without judgment. It's a very, very different mindset. So, anyways, it's very different. I think the world is done with America, and Americans are done with America, and many Americans, they are so done that they're moving. I mean, I already left. I left, and that's it. It's gonna come to an end pretty soon, and I give America 5 more years for it to look like a wasteland. Just I don't know. After Trump, they're probably gonna have a new. Some people say that after Trump, there's not gonna be a president. There's gonna be a new leadership that's gonna rise, take over America, and it's gonna look like a freaking wasteland. Just a new regime. So, but anyways, whatever your thoughts are, make sure to comment below, like this video, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell for future notifications. Guys, it's your boy Andy Matrix. Godspeed.